You better get comfortable because we're live. We are officially live now. So, Colonel Crockett, because you're obviously not Duke, there's no bald head sitting there. You remember the rule. It's live, no takebacks.
I can't pick my nose, go to the bathroom. What else can I not do, Rex?
You can do anything you want. It's our show. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, no takebacks if you do it. Once it's out there, it's out there.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to do my normal thing. I'm checking my phone, making sure I got YouTube notifications and all that. God forbid, I hope we're on X and all that. Let's see, I did actually get both notifications tonight, and we've already got a few people in on the show. Val Baker's here already. Folks, y'all start sounding off in the comments. So let's start off with, obviously, most folks probably already know you, but you are not Duke Lowry.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. You are the substitute host, the substitute teacher for the evening. Duke and Kara had to go out of town, and so I think they had to leave sometime this afternoon or something like that. But we wanted to go ahead and bring a show tonight, and I figured who better to do it and sit in the co-pilot's chair over there than somebody who was like actually in the Air Force, retired colonel, and all that sort of thing. At least has some experience with piloting a plane going down.
I think I can handle the stress. And Rex, I just wanted to say thank you for asking me to co-host with you. I look forward to it. I think we just went through a lot of really good experiences together, both not necessarily that the end result was what we wanted at the bond commission, but we did that together. It was a large group of people, and I thought it was very well organized. And then of course the city council meeting tonight. So
Yeah, we
we'll
have
talk
a
about it.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, and you don't know it yet, but see, this is kind of the warm up to doing some Bossier term limits podcasts. So we have
I
that.
think this is a really good start on that. And I know you don't have that in the agenda yet, but that is a pretty strong message that we need to get out to the people.
I agree. All right, so let's see who all is in the comments. I don't know if you can see them all streaming, but I'll put a couple of comments up there. Of course, Cassie is out there. Val Baker is out here. Let's see. Greg Bell. What did Greg Bell say? He says, David, if you don't correct Rex on that pilot thing, you'll be kicked out of the nav group.
Oh, that's a good point. Did he say pilot? I was a
I,
navigator.
well, see, I wasn't sure, so I don't think I technically said pilot. I said he could help pilot this thing on its way down to crashing and burning, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah, good point there,
Tell,
Greg Bell.
but Greg, I want you to know that I will expose myself the correct way in a little while.
That sounds dangerous already. Ruth Pope Johnston is out there. She's saying hi. Let's see. Robin Triplet Simmons is here. So Robert Goodwin is here. Anyway, whole bunch of y'all here. Here's the agenda for tonight. We're kind of winging it like we normally do. We're going to talk about the State Bond Commission meeting, and like the Colonel said, we're going to also dive into some of the City Council meeting. It was a 2-hour marathon meeting, so we won't be able to get into all of that, but we'll get into as much as we can, and we'll just take it from there. So, Colonel, why don't we go ahead and let's do the countdown and our intro. As you've watched the show plenty of times, but for those of you that might be new, that takes about 3 to 4 minutes. That gives everybody time to share this out. We're going to talk about this bond commission meeting from one of the men who was in the hot seat right there, and share our experiences with that, and go over a few other things. We'll be back in, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 minutes.
And let me make one comment. I'm a big person on making sure that everybody who gets a chance to go to YouTube and subscribe for you and Duke so we get more people. So like it, subscribe to it if you haven't done that already. I think that goes without saying.
Ah, excellent point. Thank you, Mr. Colonel Crockett. And here we go to the countdown. We'll be right back.
New, a lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating. So I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it "A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys."
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
And aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse.
Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to border. It's actually going to Mexico, the buses.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS.
We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks. Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. I think you might be one-upping Mr. Lowry on his gas mask.
Well, Rex, I don't have a sucking sound that I can do because I'm not hooked up to a comm cord, but I just wanted to respond to Greg Bell. And yes, I was a navigator for about 25 years of my 30-year Air Force career.
Ah, excellent.
And I was a squadron commander at Barksdale Air Force Base. So
hey,
those are some of my fun things.
I am in honored presence here with you tonight.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm going to unveil.
All right. So while you're doing that, we'll go ahead and let's get through some of the initial banner that I may have missed. The Colonel, you already kind of introduced yourself. We actually did mention that we are probably going to start a Bossier Term Limits podcast. I think that would be interesting. Have obviously you, Duke, maybe Wes on, maybe Cassie if she wants to join us, Miss Alice, Miss Ruth. I think that would be fun.
Well, and I will say that we referred to it just a minute ago, but there's a lot of confusion in Bossier City right now. People, some of the things that we've heard from the mayor's office that Lewis Johnson posted the other day, as well as some of the things that the press have put out, have not really been 100% accurate. But yes, we need the people to know that the term limits that are going to be going before the people are not going to be the term limits that the Bossier Term Limits Coalition is going through the court process for. So you might want to comment on that, but that's something we need to clear up. And I think KSLA, I don't know if KTBS has done anything on it yet, but we just need people to start sharing with their friends when they see those news broadcasts, because we need to get the word out that we need better term limits than what they're trying to pass.
Yeah, they're kind of trying to do the old switcheroo. I mean, we knew that's what they were trying to do, and so yeah, by the use of social media and sharing things out, we'll be putting out some information and all that, some posts on Bossier Watch, of course. Also, Bossier Term Limits, we'll be putting some information out to for everybody to utilize. All right, I'm going to switch screens here, so hold on just a second. Let's make sure that this works. Now, you probably don't see anything yet, but I got to take care of a little business first before we dive into our main subject. So, Colonel, you may want to, you're free to talk all you want. You may want to just kind of hide over in the corner and not necessarily be associated with this particular subject.
I don't get proton mail.
Okay, so yes, full disclosure and disclaimer, the good colonel has nothing to do with the Joyride segment. He is off the hook for this. But we did get another Proton mail, and so I just want to kind of go through this real quick. It says, really wish some fact checking would have happened before you made the joyriding story public. And I do want to say there was a little bit of fact checking done. But anyway, the person who sent you those emails has a personal vendetta for the owner. Would you want a police car to be fixed after a wreck and not test drove? Police cars typically should be expected to be able to exceed 90 miles an hour without a wobble. How would that be insured if it was not tested? Now, Colonel, you don't have to answer this at all, but y'all in the comments can, and Colonel, you can if you want. I don't think that there is an exemption in the city ordinances nor the state statutes that govern the speed limits on public roadways. I don't think there's an exemption in there for mechanics or body shops or anybody else that works on cars. I know if I hook your Bluetooth up to your car, Colonel, I can't turn around and test drive it at 90 miles an hour to make sure the Bluetooth works. I mean, I can, but I probably will get a ticket.
Well, might want to qualify that. Did he turn his lights on?
Oh, that would be interesting. And of course, that opens up a whole other can of worms. And we have some.
Maybe you can fact check back on Proton Mail.
Yes, maybe so. So, maybe nothing was done within the department because there was no story. And I would again point out we got this story multiple times. Of course, Proton Mail, so we don't really know who they are, but we suspect, since this wasn't shared publicly, that it's people in the know. So you can narrow that down on your own if you want. This is just a sick individual who apparently just wants to ruin someone's business. I don't care about RV collision. I don't think Duke does either. What we care about is the fact that there was a Tahoe taken on a joyride and zero done about it, apparently, within the department. Again, we don't attack private businesses. It's got to have a political tie in, and this certainly does. So I don't care about RV collision that much. All right. And the other part of the vendetta, how can the owner vandalize something he owns? Just because the same sick mind convince themselves that the fabricated story is true in their own disturbed mind. Well, that's interesting, Colonel, because we're going to do a public information request for that video because guess what? It is public record. And then we'll see if sources are telling us the truth or if this particular Proton mail is telling the truth. Is it really a vendetta? So,
well, you never cease to amaze me, Rex, that you know how to use those public information requests, and maybe you'll just catch somebody a little bit shorthanded there.
Maybe so. We'll see. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up. I also want to share one other thing as well. I don't have a Proton mail or anything to share with this, but I did reach out to Rena at the Bossier Extended Stay Motel. And of course, she said it's an ongoing case, so she doesn't really want to say much about anything yet. But she did confirm that they are still without water. Still, no water. Paid up water bill, no water. No warning from the city, no water. And as a refresher, SWATCO turned off the electricity at the behest of the city, then came back out and said they didn't want to deal in the city's business, turned the electric back on, so the city vindictively went out there and shut the water off. We have not yet seen any of these supposed violations other than this whole hotel apartment complex thing, but they still have no water. So there's that.
Well, Rex, let me ask you. You may have had experience with this, but what is a business person to do? Who do they complain to? Do they go to the city attorney, and do they go to the policeman?
I didn't know we were going to have comedy hour on here. I mean,
if I were the business owner, I'd be contacting somebody, if not the governor or the attorney general.
Well, I have it on good authority that they may have some legal assistance. So
Okay.
we're gonna see how this turns out. And it's kind of interesting. I mentioned water because part of the city council meeting was on water. We're gonna get into that here in a few minutes as well. Cassie Rogers. So see, I gotta disagree with you, Cassie. Cassie says, "Are they still allowing people to rent those rooms?" Geez, well, I think she meant shut it down. Cassie, this is where you and I'll have to just diverge on agreement. I am a smaller government guy. I'm, supposed to be a Republican, supposed to be a conservative. I do have libertarian leanings. This is a big government, little business, regardless of whether that particular facility meets everybody's standards. I mean, hell, I don't rake my yard and power wash my house all the time either. So some might accuse me of being a little rundown around here, but that's the way I see this. And so we'll just have to agree to disagree on that. Let's see. Ryan Haygood says, the city will regret this. We, the taxpayers, are on the hook. They love to spend other people's money all the time. All right. And we're going to talk about some more of that in the bond commission meeting. Colonel, are you ready to talk about the bond commission meeting?
Yeah, I'd love to start on that. Do you want me to intro the issue?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and kind of set the issue up for us, and even if you want to, just do a quick setup and then get into. We'll just start out first thing that morning, and then we'll go into the actual meeting.
Well, first of all, I just want to make the point that Duke, that both you and Rex, of course, stay so engaged on all of these issues, and you knew when the city had put themselves on the agenda, and that's where it all starts. So basically what we had the three propositions that the city is putting on the ballot in the March ballot, and that the first petition, or the first proposition, is to change the charter in Bossier City, and that's all the changes that the Charter Commission worked on. And I don't know at what point you want to go through this, but I would want to make, there you go. So these are the three propositions, 1, 2, and 3. The first one, of course, is to change the charter in Bossier City. Now, I do want to make a comment up front about that. There are serious problems with the charter itself that they have made changes to. For one thing, they have we didn't really talk about this at the Charter Commission, but the people in Bossier City need to start understanding that what they're doing is they're trying to make it so that every department head in Bossier City can be a contractor like Manchac and run the city's business.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me pause you right there, because none of that was discussed at the Charter Commission meeting. You mean there's other stuff besides term limits?
There's other stuff besides term limits, and I think that there's a lot of danger in what they've done at the Charter Commission, and a lot of that I think has a lot to do with what you guys have covered in previous shows. But the for instance is that I know you've covered very well that Manchac, pretty much, who has contributed to both the mayor's future campaigns by campaign contributions. They have given about, I think it's around $18,000 over the years to David Montgomery's campaigns. And this is both Ben Rauschenbach as well as the CEO of Manchac at the time. They don't call themselves Manchac anymore. But that's just one, for instance, and they're codifying in the charter that Bossier City will be able to continue to hire contractors to lead the divisions in Bossier City. Now, that would be a different story if they said that they can contract out certain functions underneath the divisions. But they're saying that you can hire basically all of the leaders in Bossier City could be a contractor. And my point that I've made in previous city council meetings is that a contractor is beholden to their shareholders or the people who own parts of the company. They're not, even though they can be the best person in the world, but their ultimate responsibility is to the company that they work for. So that is, to me, a problem in a city like Bossier City. You need to have your city directorates, whether it be your water, your sewer, your public information officer, anybody that works for the city, your finance division, they all need to be led by people that are appointed by the mayor that can be removed. Because you remember in Bossier City's charter, the mayor can appoint and remove. The appointed people have to be approved by the council, but the mayor can remove them. So I just wanted to segue into that one issue that we haven't really talked about. Do you have any further comment on that, Rex?
Well, so let me throw a little bit of a curveball to you, and I think you and I discussed this a little bit, but as a person who defines conservative as preventing or slowing down further intrusions of the government, just to put it as succinctly as I can. Typically, we hear the thing, and I'm going to jump over to the federal level, so bear with me for a minute. But typically, we hear, wait a minute, private industry does stuff so much better than the government does. So why is it that shouldn't apply here? And look, we've been as vocal as anybody, Duke and I both, about Manchac. And the mayor ran on auditing Manchac, which of course we know is not going to happen. So what is the advantage to the government leading it, doing all this in the local government itself versus Manchac, versus a private contractor?
Well, for one thing, there are times when what they called that agreement with Manchac was a public-private partnership. There are times when a public-private partnership makes a lot of sense. There are times like if you're going to build a toll road, you might find a company who will build that toll road for you, but they get the fees, or they get a majority of the fees, or some arrangement that you make with them. In this case, Manchac is using the company Manchac to reach back for both design work for the city. They've got a table of fees that they charge the city every time they use Manchac services. That's one thing they do. The other thing is, of course, we know that they pay $200,000 a year now for Manchac to lead the department itself. And then right now they had replaced a lot of the people on the water staff and the sewer staff with Manchac people. Now, a lot of people in Bossier City that were doing those jobs probably went to work for Manchac. So you're getting the same people. But the real question you need to ask yourself is, am I getting the same services for the best price? And I think that's the main thing that you have to ask yourself. In this case, we all know in Bossier City, especially anybody who watches Bossier Watch, knows that Manchac just commanded a 30% pay raise in their contract for the next 5 years. Now, the issue that I have with that is a city needs to be good at managing contracts if you're going to start running a lot of the city with contractors. I was a contractor in the Air Force. After the Air Force, I worked for Booz Allen Hamilton. I helped Booz Allen Hamilton win 2 contracts. I was able to, because we had to compete for it, we had to compete our price lower. In this case, Manchac commanded the 30% and no one negotiated with them. So when you have Manchac, now when we were in the military, I as a contractor could not exchange money or anything of value with anybody in the military of any significant value. In this case, Manchac is contributing to the campaign to the people that are hiring them and giving them a pay raise. So I think that one issue, yeah, imagine. But I think that's something that we need to talk about. But that's only one of the things that I see that's a problem. One of the other things that I see in here that I would have concern about, they added a provision in the charter that allows them, if anybody on the city council has an investigation or something that they need to have investigated on somebody that they think has done something inappropriate or illegal, they can compel you, if you're a city employee, that you will be fined $500 if you don't deposition or cooperate. Now, you know that one of the things that have happened recently is that when apparently somehow that you got some recordings of city council meetings. So if
Right.
the city wants to go and investigate, which may have been the driving reason for this. So there are freedom of speech, or what would you call it, whistleblower issues. Bossier City does not have a whistleblower clause. You would have to reach back to state statute, so it's unclear, whether you as a worker in Bossier City have a right to do a whistleblower complaint to Bossier Watch or to the government.
Well,
So I think
let me get you to pause right there for a second. So, to me, it's a fear and intimidation deal. So let me give you a good example. Today during the city council meeting, and we'll get to that, you gave a very good spill on your First Amendment rights and assertions versus what their rules of decorum are. And here's the thing, you were absolutely correct in what you said. But they know that if they haul you out of there again, and I am jealous, by the way, you and Miss Alice both have been escorted out by the city marshal's office, and we in 4 years have not. But that's a whole other conversation. But what they do is they know that most people are not going to fight that in court because it costs money to file a lawsuit. And that's what you would have to do. And, there's the old saying, you can't fight City Hall. Arguably, we're kind of sort of been fighting City Hall for the past couple of years. But you can't fight City Hall because they have all of our money together. And so I want to point that out, that by them putting that clause in there with the $500 deal, even if it wouldn't stand up in court, it's a fear and intimidation deal, and it has a chilling effect on people's whistleblower and First Amendment rights. You're absolutely correct, because they know most of the city employees probably don't get paid enough to file a lawsuit against the city anyway.
well, and it's really so abusive that they would put that in there where a city councilman can do that. But there's nowhere mentioned in the new charter change that the mayor or a city official can file a complaint and investigate somebody on the council who's violating Louisiana open meeting laws or anything else. So I think that that is something that I think is unfair that's in there. I think it needs to be talked about, and I think mainly kudos to Wes Marriott and Bossier Watch and the way you guys have covered these First Amendment rights for Bossier City citizens over the last couple of years. But everybody should be watching these things. I talked to, Cassie tonight. All the speakers who spoke tonight did an incredible job. But we need to listen to those things over and over again, because if we don't stand up for those rights, and the bottom line of what I said tonight was that the city council wrote those rules, and they can write rules that are reasonable, but they can't write rules that are unconstitutional. Correct. So I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, the Constitution trumps all, and they tend to forget that. Okay, so let's move on to let's just summarize real quickly the Charter Amendment Proposition 2 and Proposition 3. Now, to be clear to everybody, this is the Clown Show Charter Commission's what we call watered down version of term limits. And we're showing them here for reference. This will be on the ballot March the 27th or 29th, whatever day that is. So these will be on the ballot. So, Colonel, can you just quickly summarize these two charter amendment propositions, and of course, what their ultimate goal is?
Yeah. So, of course, we know that the Charter Commission was there really competing against our retrospective retroactive term limits. They're calling these prospective. So once this election is over, as you read at the bottom of the second paragraph of proposition number 2. It says that if they that service being during the term of office that began on or after January 1st, 2025, these city councilmen or the mayor, the same wording is in there for the mayor, that they will not assume office until July. So after this next election, anybody who runs for office will get 3 more terms, so another 12 years. Now, where that applies is, of course, we feel like that Bossier City is wanting change, that the 3,000 plus, about 3,500 people who signed petitions in both petitions, that they want change now, and they don't want these city councilmen who've been in office. And let me say this. David Montgomery has been a councilman for 24 years after the end of this term. Bogdan Williams has been in for 28 years. Because Darby ran once and then had to, and then did not get elected the second time, and then ran again, he's been in 32 years. So Bossier City wants change, and I think that that's what this is all about. And I think that's the crux of the whole thing, is that one of the things that came out during the discussions, some of the senators and representatives in the Louisiana legislature made the point that this is term limits, and it's not. You basically, in the case of Darby, you could be, if you add 12 more years, he's almost 100 years old. So we just think that was a little bit disingenuous.
Yeah, I don't even know. What has Darby been in there? 30-something years now? 30-some odd? I don't know. It's hard to keep track.
32.
32, okay.
Darby will have been in for 32 years.
Yeah, so
we've got one for 24, one for 28, and one for 32 years. And then, of course, Jeff Free will have been in for 12 years. So if our resolution was on, or our proposition was on the ballot, we would have 4 new city councilmen that could not, because the previous councilman could not run.
Right. Okay, Michael Ferris says, not only do several long-standing councilmen seem to be thwarting the will of the electorate, but they appear to be trying to sabotage the budgetary future as well. Yes, that does appear to be so. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to switch screens over here. So, good deal. You stayed with me through my clicking around. That's always a good thing. So, we're, Colonel, you've seen us, Duke and I, do this a million times. I've got some things time-stamped in here. This was about 40 minutes. I don't really plan to go through the entire 40 minutes, but when I hit play on something, if you see a point you want to stop and comment, just let me know and I'll stop the video. Folks, I want to let y'all know that, of course, we posted this on our Facebook channel, Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, this fully transcribed segment of the Bond Commission meeting. It was the dominating thing at the Bond Commission meeting, but I didn't want to post the entire Bond Commission meeting. Anyway, so I'm sure, hopefully y'all have seen that. It's been watched well north of 1,000 times so far. And I posted the transcript, which is pretty accurate, full disclosure, probably not 100% accurate as well. So here we go. Let's go through this. So the first,
Rex,
yes.
Before you click start, let me make one more comment on what you just said.
Sure.
It is really critical right now for everybody to, good, you've already got 1,000 views on that. We need to get thousands of views. Mm-hmm. That Bond Commission had people are going to see it now, but if they have not watched the whole thing, they need to watch it, they need to share it, and they need to ask people to share it, because even if they live outside of Bossier City, they know people in Bossier City. So Please do that.
Yeah, and I am going to take some of the comments and make some little 1-minute Facebook Reels and YouTube Shorts and put them on TikTok, assuming TikTok's still in business after January the 19th, and post all of that for folks to share too. And I do want to say one thing. I almost forgot to share this. So I'm going to switch screens again, but Colonel, I want you to, if you don't mind, set this up, because we met at about 3:45 in the morning. So if you want to kind of set all that up first, that just share you and Duke riding together, and then we had a charter bus
Yeah.
to go down
Yeah,
as
let
well.
me just go into that real quick. So, of course, we wanted to set it up to make sure that, I mean, I was happy if Duke had spoken all by himself because Duke is so good at this stuff and he knows the politics of it all. But Duke and I rode together because we want to make sure we got there on time. And then the bus and us, we all left at the same time. I think the bus had to stop and get gas or whatever he had to do. But so anyway, we were there, and I think that a couple of points were made about that, which I think it was incredible that we had almost 20 people that joined on the bus, and that was set up by Ruth Pope Johnston, and she probably had help, but I don't know. I think Ruth, God bless you, friend. I don't know. Did you see if she's on tonight, Rex?
I haven't seen her yet, but I will go ahead and share this out because I rode the bus down there too. She did an excellent job of coordinating that and getting everybody there on time. We did have to stop for fuel. The bus driver did a great job, but he was about 15 minutes late. But to John Fleming's credit, he did readjust the agenda to make sure that we were all there. And so many thanks again to John Fleming. We know how well he did at the last bond commission meeting, and honestly, his statements at this bond commission meeting, he didn't change his stance whatsoever. So
One
yes,
more comment on that. It was, if you were able to be there, it's one of those things where I don't think I have a great political mind in any way, but Duke does. And so we're sitting there, and Duke is writing the whole way and editing his comments. And, we just fed off of each other. And that's one of the things that I love about the whole Bossier Term Limits Coalition. And I will say this, Rex, this is a coalition. There are about 30 people maybe who kept this ball rolling on the streets, walking, people like Cassie, people like Ruth Pope Johnston, anybody, Republican Party. But that was a part of this, but really it's about 80 people who participated in this whole effort. So thank you, and I think that's a good intro.
yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens one more time, and we'll go on down through this. So at this point, it was probably I forget, probably 40 minutes into the meeting, maybe or whatever. That's where the part about Bossier City started. This is Richard Ray coming up to the witness stand, obviously. So I'm just gonna roll with it, and if you need me to stop, just speak up.
City Council's appointed commission on this issue.
Well, hold on just a second. Adding my audio.
Well, while you're doing your audio, let me do a little bit
attorney.
of a. Go ahead, keep going.
All right, here we go, folks.
For the city of Bossier City. I also was a member of the Charter Commission. The city attorney was out at the time with a major health issue. And on a charter commission under our charter, the city council, we have 7 city council members and a mayor. The 7 members of the city council appoint a citizen residing in Bossier City, and the mayor appoints 2, and then the CAO and the city attorney are ad hoc, non-voting members of the Charter Commission.
Now I want to stop right there and do 2 things. I want to address Miss Jerry's question. She said Mr. Ray brought members with him to the bond hearing. Who were they? That guy sitting beside him is from the Baton Rouge law firm that the city, and I think a lot of municipalities hire, as they're trying to get things through the bond commission. I do want to address that I am so glad that Richard Ray has actually figured out his identity crisis, because apparently he really was the city attorney representing the city at those charter commission meetings. Remember, he back and forth, he couldn't figure out he was having a gender identity crisis or whatever.
He's waffled on that several times, but I think every lawyer has a right to do so. let me just preface what you just said also, Rex. None of the people, you can see some of our delegation up in the far left corner on that, but to be the setting here, you've got about, I think it was 3 or 4 legislators from parts of Louisiana, not from Bossier City. You had a couple of senators, and you had Miss Friel, who is the senior legal advisor for the governor who was there, and that plays into this in a little while. You know Miss Friel from past experiences, but she's very. She'll show her frustration later on, and I think everybody will enjoy that.
All right, here we go.
And so I also appear here as an active member of that charter commission. We started meetings almost a year ago in January of 2024. We had approximately 25 meetings. Some of those included town hall meetings. They included, some of them were 3 and 4 hours long. There's hundreds of hours that were put into that by representatives of the elected body, all of which are not on the same page with this. Some are in favor of a retroactive version and some are not.
And I'd like to point out some were in favor of the retroactive version and then swapped their position. That Benedict Arnold Jeter. But anyway, I digress. Here we go.
I think his moniker now is Judas Jeter.
Judas Jeter.
The elected officials. But they made appointments to a charter commission and impaneled a charter commission. And the charter commission made recommendations to amend the charter, which is very important, and I don't want it to get lost on this group, that there are 3 items that we would ask be placed on the March 29th ballot, and that is an amended and restated charter.
Notice again, he says amended and restated. We've already covered that, and I promise you I'm not going to bore everybody with Richard Ray's entire deal here. I'm going to jump to Fleming's comments here in just a minute, but this is an important little section, so I wanted to play this beginning.
And this is the first time that we've had a charter amendments in 20 years in Bossier City. And I think that the one thing, there's people here that disagree on some things and different positions, but I think that we can all agree, everyone that's here from Bossier City can agree that there were changes that needed to be made to the Bossier City charter. And the charter commission.
Now let's pause there, Rex.
Yep.
I think we really need to clarify the reality with that.
What, the 20
Bossier
years?
City, yeah, Bossier City is
Well,
functioning.
All right, so but let me pause you for a second, because when we get to Duke's comments, he lays it out pretty succinctly.
I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
I want to make the point that the changes that were made were largely the things like I said, to make it where you can hire somebody as a contractor. They're not good things. This is what is it called, where you keep saying the same thing and you people will eventually start to believe you if you keep saying this, repeating the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But that's exactly what they're doing. These are not major problems that Bossier City cannot deal. The only real change that they've done is they've added another division, which is for you to be able to have a IT person that would have his own division. That's the biggest change that they've done with it. This is not stuff that just has to be done right now. I just want to make that point.
Good, very, very good point. All right, here we go. I'm going to play it for another minute, then I may go ahead and jump forward. Here we go.
Very hard. We had a cross section of Bossier City. We had, different viewpoints.
All right, so I got to stop right there. Does anybody remember a very good cross section of Bossier City in that charter commission? I mean, I think on some show and some other folks that made comments at those very meetings, I think they had counter positions to the wide diversification on the charter commission. I mean, we had the wife of the city judge, also a police juror. She is also a lawyer for the sheriff's department, among other things. We had the wife of the city marshal. We had a Democratic executive committee member who is also on the NAACP, but also apparently gets some sort of funding for his housing deals through the city, or some kinds of grants. I don't know. Am I leaving something out here?
No, I think you've summarized it. But Lee Jeter runs a nonprofit, and then he gets assistance. He either gets property donated, or he gets a early, maybe it's offered to him that he can buy certain properties, and then he deals with it that way. But that's a very good point. I think almost everybody that served in the first part of Bossier term limits or Bossier Charter Commission, that 5 of those people that were appointed, and remember, no one was ever appointed from Darby's district, and then Williams until the very end, and the guy who had unfortunately died and never actually appeared at the Charter Commission. The other thing is Williams appointed somebody from outside his district, and they did appoint somebody from Williams' district that participated, but the people who were appointed later on, the 4 that were replaced, only went to a couple of meetings. One of those meetings was where they had a workshop that they studied the issues, and then they just voted on them, but the people never got a chance to comment to them.
Yeah. So, Richard Ray, look, Richard Ray is doing his job of putting the best spin on this BS that he can. So I'll give him credit. And hey, he did get mission accomplished this bond commission meeting. So, all right, let's move on forward. Here we go. I think I'm going to skip forward to about the 10-minute mark. This is where John Fleming starts giving a little pushback, let's just say. Here we go.
You're saying they could be on the same ballot, but as I understand it, the city council has blocked the coalition's version, so it can't.
Now, what he's talking about there is, could the people's petition, as we call it, end up on the same ballot? And there are problems with that, folks. That's pretty much an impossibility. Not totally impossible, but pickings are slim on that. But where the people's petition, which is held up in court by the city council now, with Cassie's lawsuit, could that potentially be on the same ballot with the term limits resolutions that we showed you earlier in the show? And the waffle question is, well, potentially, but Fleming's not cutting him any slack on this. So here we go.
Can't move forward.
Well, I wouldn't say they blocked it, but if the Second Circuit orders that it be placed on a ballot, then it will be placed on a ballot.
Right.
And y'all heard that was our contingent laughing in the background. Because Richard Ray's trying to say or allude to, oh, the city didn't really block it, but Fleming's not having any of that. And I'll give you a chance to respond in a minute, Colonel.
Right.
If a court says it has to be done, it'll be done. But they can both be on the same ballot, Dr. Fleming.
That's theoretically true, but again, didn't the city council actually vote to prevent it from being on the ballot?
Well, they didn't vote to place it on the ballot, and so a mandamus was filed.
Thing.
Well, yeah, right. A mandamus was filed to tell.
That was awesome. I mean, Fleming is such a nice guy, but he was not listening to any of the BS that Richard was putting out.
Fleming really has this whole thing nailed, and I'm of course, we need to also credit the fact that he is now running for the U.S. Senate position for our current senator.
Yeah, look, based on John Fleming's comments and actions at the charter subcommittee meeting, and based on his consistent comments and actions on news media after that, and his consistent and same actions and thoughts at this meeting, whatever John Fleming's running for, he's got my vote if I can vote for him. That's all I'm going to say.
He will go head-to-head with Cassidy.
Yes, and should beat him handily, hopefully. All right, so Rusty Maddox says, Rex, did you get the comments by the guy next to Fleming? He never made any comments. So, there were no. And we did post a link to the full video, the full Senate subcommittee room video, if you want to watch the whole thing in full context. But this was this is everything that was discussed and what we posted, everything that was discussed concerning Bossier City. All right, here we go.
To put it on the ballot.
Well, the only point I make here is that you say they could both be on the ballot, but the same people that want your version are blocking, in effect, however you want to describe that, the other version. So I'm wondering if maybe they would be willing to approve it and let both be on the ballot at the same time.
Well, that request has been made numerous times by some people that are here. But Dr. Fleming, we can't have both versions on it if you block this version. And so if the
oh, please let our version go through. And I want to say Cassie Rogers got up today at the city council meeting. I'm jumping a little bit ahead for just a split second. And she did make a comment on the agenda items requesting that one of the city councilors add that to the agenda.
I thought Cassie did such an incredible job tonight with this whole issue. And they keep throwing it out to Cassie that this is not the way for you to change the agenda, but they've tried to limit her speech on that issue. And I talked to Cassie later on and said, Cassie, you can comment anything you want to comment when you're commenting about the agenda. So don't let David Montgomery or Jacobs or anybody else try to pull that rug out from under you. But yes, you did a great job.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
The Second Circuit comes back in a week after we leave here today and they say, put the other one on, and you don't let this one on, then they both can't be on the same ballot.
Oh, that would be terrible. The people's petition would be on the ballot and your crap wouldn't. Imagine that, Richard Ray. But he represents all the city councilmen and the people of Bossier. That's what Richard Ray represents. All right, here we go.
This one needs to procedurally move forward, and it's in a posture to procedurally move forward. Our charter says that if you have competing provisions, if you have competing amendments, then the one that gets the most votes wins. And so moving forward with this version does nothing to stop the other version. What it does is if we bump it to the May 3rd election, what that does is cost the citizens of Bossier $87,600 because that.
All right, so y'all remember $87,600. That is a very important number to remember as we have some more comments about that here in just a minute.
That's what the Secretary of State says the election will cost. If we're on the March 29th ballot, we already have municipal elections, and now the state has the proposed constitutional amendments, and so there will not be that additional cost to the citizens of Bossier. I speak for 8 elected officials. I'm not going to say they're all on the same page. They're not. But I can tell you that all 8 of them would be in favor of both versions being on the same ballot. But we can't have both versions if you don't allow this one to go forward. The other one is in the courts. Whether it's on a ballot is going to be up to judges at this point. But if they say put it on and this one's not on.
But you do concede that had the council approved it, it could we could theoretically have both versions now. So the city council is the one that's put us in this situation, as I understand.
Well, I would say some of them, not all of them. They're not all on the same page.
Well, they didn't approve, so therefore the only version that's come to us is your version. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's correct. But
aha! He finally admitted it. Did you hear that,
Yeah.
Colonel?
Well, I really appreciated that. And Rex, I don't know if if you've got a marker on the comment that was made by the legislator about how much it cost. Did you?
Oh yeah, that's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Excellent
Okay,
segue.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss it.
We're almost to that. Hold on.
But I would ask that you not stop this version, because if you stop this one, then they both can't be on a ballot, and we're going to continue this leapfrog.
All I'm saying is I think your clients have been part of that's made this happen, is what I'm saying.
With all due respect, Dr. Fleming, as I stated earlier, I represent 8 elected officials, and some have one opinion and some have another opinion.
Right.
So it's not my clients, all of
But
my
the combined
clients.
opinion is not to move the other version forward, is my understanding. I mean, I just want to be factually correct here. I'm not arguing. Again, this is not a court of law. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on what's actually happening here.
It is factually correct that a majority of the Bossier City Council did not vote to put the retroactive version
Okay,
on
thank
the,
you.
on the
That's
ballot.
what I'm trying to say.
It took all of that banner for Richard to actually admit the truth. Did y'all see that, folks? And I give Richard Ray credit. He was trying his best. He is a great weasel, and he was trying his best to weasel out of that every which way he could.
Very nicely done.
Okay, so here we go. Let's see. We are almost to the point on the money spent, so I'm just going to hit play. It'll be coming up here in about a minute.
Okay,
but I also represent people who wanted it on the ballot.
I understand.
So I'm here in a dual capacity, and I was on this charter commission where hundreds of hours were spent trying to put together changes to the charter. And so it's very important that not only is there the term limit issue, but if you defer this, you're deferring 20 years of changes in a
20 years of changes. Remember, $87,600, and remember again.
I think that's going to come. That's going to come back to haunt him in a minute when Duke speaks.
At 20 years of changes, just remember that, folks. All right, here we go.
Charter that may never get to the voters, or if they do, it's going to cost the voters a lot of money.
Let me ask you this question. So, if approved today, it would be on the ballot at the same time that the same members are being reelected. Is that correct, or up for election?
Yes, it would be on the same date as the municipal elections.
So obviously, even if passed today or moved forward today, it wouldn't affect their election because the question wouldn't be decided until after that election. If it's on the ballot at the same time as people running for election or re-election, therefore the question would be again for the next election. Am I correct about that?
That would be correct.
In terms of retroactivity?
In terms of the retroactivity, correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions from?
Okay, so remember the $87,600. And let me just say, that's not totally incorrect because if you have one particular issue or a set of issues that are on their own standalone ballot, there is a cost associated with that, where if you have multiple issues on the ballot, then that cost gets divided amongst all the things on the ballot. But remember that $87,000. This is good. Here we go.
Well, Rex, one thing that I wanted to add there is if you had, because the March election, if there's a runoff between any two people, then you're going to have a May election anyway. So then that would be divided. So, right? I mean, we may have 3 people run for an office.
Yes.
So if that's the case, you could end up having a runoff.
Yeah. And Rusty clarified. He said, I meant McMakin's comments 1 seat over from Fleming. So I just wanted to clarify what Rusty meant. All right, here we go.
Right.
Oh, okay. We got Representative McMakin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question. So we had an issue here in Baton Rouge where we had our mayor suing people and constituents that wanted to do something. I'm curious on the money. Have y'all were any private lawyers hired that contracts were used by the city, so city money was used for these lawsuits?
The city, because we have city council members on one side and a mayor and city council members on the other side, the city is actually funding, there's attorneys for both sides, and the city is funding both sides.
Do you know?
The city is funding both sides. Do y'all understand now, people? OPM, other people's money. It's our money. We're using our money to fight ourselves.
Well, let me summarize the real answer to that. Katie Bell's law firm, remember when we had the first petition, that's from one part of the summer of 2023 to 2024 in the summer, the city paid $50,000 to Katie Bell's law firm.
Right.
Not only that, but when they were in the courtroom, they had 2 attorneys that were in the courtroom, and I don't know what the other law firm was that they did. Since they've done this, of course, the city has had to appeal this case. So who knows how much, but it's probably $60,000 or $70,000 that the city's already paid. So that's the real answer. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, and watch Richard Ray kind of stumble through this. This is great.
There are private individuals that have their own attorney, but the city has, there are members that want the retroactive version, and they have a lawyer that the city pays for, and there are members that want the prospective version. They have a lawyer that the city's paid for.
To your knowledge, how much money's been used? Or I would say wasted. I'm just curious.
I couldn't tell you that, Representative.
You don't know any
McMacklin.
contracts that y'all's council has approved and how much they were?
We don't, under our charter, we don't. It goes through our legal department. I would estimate that it's.
It goes through the legal department. He's literally the assistant city attorney. I mean, do y'all see that bullshit right there? All right, here it goes.
It's in the $40,000 range, but
Thank
that
you.
would just be an estimate.
Thank you.
And I would argue a low estimate. I agree with you, Colonel. It's probably bumping six figures.
I am thinking because right now they've had this one attorney that's gone all the way through this, but they're hiring an attorney for both. They've got an attorney representing the 2 councilmen and the mayor, and the attorney representing the 5 city councilmen.
Yeah. So, Paul Johnson said earlier disingenuous, but that also would apply right here. He was trying to dance his way and weasel his way out of that one. So, folks, when y'all hear me say Richard Ray is a weasel, now you know what I was talking about. He was weaseling his way trying to not answer that damn question. Yeah, Jerry Castellani says, is he not the legal department? Duck, duck, goose. All right, here we go.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else have questions? Senator Edmonds?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm understanding you said earlier in your testimony that the mayor would be for either version.
All right, I'm going to stop right here. Everybody listen closely to what Edmonds is saying, because he's throwing Richard Ray a lifeline, but that lifeline is kind of a noose for the mayor and some other elected officials. So y'all listen closely to what he says.
Well, the mayor has come out. The mayor, it ran on term limits. We had several people, as I explained when I came back in October. Bossier City has had, we had kind of a new group of people that ran for office in 2021, and some members of the council and the mayor ran on implementing term limits in Bossier City.
So, anybody that wants to tag Adam Bass, if you want to tag Seabiscuit in, let's see, who am I missing out? Oh, you can tag Ray, and you might want to tag Bamberg too. I think he might have been watching earlier, but listen carefully. Here we go.
Well, and Rex, make sure, I don't know if you tagged this, but we want to make sure that we also explain Dodie Horton's reaction to this, because she was a gem.
Yeah, and she was present at the meeting as well. She did come into the meeting for a few minutes. Kind of interesting that she didn't go around and shake hands and kiss babies with everybody, but that's a whole other story. So listen carefully to what is said here, and I'm going to expand and share some information that nobody knows about yet.
Mayor, it fully has openly supported the retroactive version. He also would be supportive of the prospective version.
Okay, and my understanding.
Did y'all hear that? Miss Ruth, did you hear that? I mean, you were there at the meeting too, Miss Ruth, so you heard it firsthand. Here we go.
Understanding is the 2 sitting senators, Senator Bass and Senator Seabaugh, are also in favor of this particular motion you're trying to get on the ballot. Is that?
Y'all heard that. This particular motion, the non-citizens petition, Bass and Seabaugh are supposedly in agreement with, and let's see what Richard Ray says.
Is that your understanding?
It's my understanding that everyone in our legislative delegation, including Representative Cruz, everyone would be in favor of this prospective version. I don't know that they would be against the other one, but I know that they're in favor of moving this forward, yes.
Okay.
Did y'all hear that? So Richard Ray is now speaking for the entire legislative delegation for our area. And a lot of people got their dander up that were at that meeting. But I'm going to share this out because Duke and I were going to discuss some of this tonight. And I'm going to be a little coy about it. But let's just say that we have it on good authority that there were some very good authority, that there were some legislators actively lobbying for this version of term limits from the Bossier City Charter Commission that Richard Ray is arguing for. The word is lobbying for. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
Well, Rex, I think that really explains the behavior of all of the legislators, and we won't talk about how they voted until the end, but it does explain how Duke read the legislators as soon as he walked in there.
Yeah, he did. He called it. So, and look, the truth is, we knew that we did not have a great shot at stalling it again. We all knew that going in. So I just want to share that too. Let's see, I just missed a call, but it wasn't from Duke or anybody. So here we go. All right.
But the council did not. Was it a split vote again? Was it?
Oh, yes.
A
Yeah,
split
split.
vote?
Yes.
Okay.
And the council, the mayor continually put forward a resolution to place the retroactive version on the ballot. And the council, on a split vote, either didn't agree to add it to an agenda at one point, or they didn't vote to move.
How split was that damn vote? Was I at the same council meetings that the Weasel was in?
I think what he's referring to, Rex, is eventually when this was passed, there was the whole issue with when Chris, because of the way the charter reads, thought that it was his duty to go ahead and approve for the resolution to go forward and let the bond commission decide. And I think that's what he's talking
about. My point here is that Richard Ray, and I was thinking that while I was sitting there in that meeting, Richard Ray is trying to make it seem like it was split down the middle. That's what he's alluding to, and that's just horseshit.
Right. Well, I think the deceptive part of what Richard Ray is doing right there is that we can't. I believe what he is doing is he's misinterpreting that when Chris voted to move it forward, he did not ever vote that he supports this version of term limits. I have never heard Chris say that. I would never espouse that about Chris. I think Chris wants our version of term limits because I believe in my heart that he knows that we need to change the Bossier City Council.
Yeah. So, all right, here we go.
Forward, and they had, what they claimed to be objections to it, and then prior to the 30 days, a mandamus was filed, and the issue was heard at the 26th JDC, and the judge there did say the council should put it on. Now that it also opens the constitutionality of this has never been addressed. It's not ripe yet.
Yeah, I'm going to skip all that. We're going to jump ahead to Jack McFarland.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Stay with us, folks. Lots more.
So the last action taken by the city council was on November the 5th. The resolution was approved, the three amendments that are proposed, by a vote of 6-1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So prior to that council meeting, had there been any unanimous, well, and that's not unanimous, but it's a majority. Had there been any other votes that had been taken where that number of council members had an agreement to a prospective term limit process?
No, sir.
Okay, so prior to the commission meeting, coming forth with this resolution of, obviously everybody's in agreements, even the groups that have formed the petition and the council members, now that there needs to be term limits on the ballot in March.
I would say that, yes, Representative McFarland. In fact, I would say that they would agreement that it needs to be on a ballot sometime, either December 7th, which is now passed, or March 29th.
Yeah. So based on the last action taken by the city council, which was, as the treasurer stated, I mean, y'all had a meeting and it was deferred in October because of a legal challenge. And I mean, that was trying to give time for some of that to resolve itself. And obviously some of it has, in my opinion, been resolved because now you have, to me, a more unified council saying, yes, we do want term limits, although under the proposed propositions, they're not retroactive. I'm not an attorney, so I don't even know if we can do that or can't do that. That's why it's obviously in court. So what's before me today that I have to understand is the last action taken by the council, voted on 6-1, is asking us to put this on the ballot, and that's it.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Okay. Mr. Bacala.
All right, so I'm going to pause right there. So, you know, I mean, we all know the deal. We all know the story ad nauseum by now. They just have blocked, using lawfare, the people's petition twice, I may add. And they just sidestep it and act like that's never really happened as far as the city council's concerned. Yeah, we're just not even going to talk about that vote. And Richard Ray's going to do his best to weasel out of talking about that vote. And they managed to get down to the goal line. Does that pretty much sum it up?
I think that's pretty much until we get to the issues that the legal counsel for the governor.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, so I'm going to jump ahead, and really it's just a couple of minutes there, and this is where you and Mr. Lowry sit down.
In opposition.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Fleming and members of the Bond Commission. I'm David Crockett. I'm a retired colonel, former Barksdale Air Force Base Squadron Commander, B-1 Vice Wing Commander. I live at 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I live outside the city limits, but I do use Bossier City water and attend Bossier City Council meetings regularly. I'm happy to represent the...
I just want to stop there. Notice Richard Ray, and I know I skipped over some of his comments, but Richard Ray never made an issue of this being brought forward by folks that don't live in the city limits like he did the last time and has repeatedly.
I think Duke preempted that with a bus.
Yes, I think so. All right, here we go.
The Bossier Term Limits Coalition, along with my buddy, colleague, Duke Lowry. I do want to correct a few things, and I'm going to shorten my comments a good bit because you did a great job summarizing past events. I do want to point out one thing that was just stated, and I think we're going to have to differ in one point. In Louisiana statute RS 33 1395.1, it talks about formation of charter commissions. It says that the members of the Charter Commission shall take office immediately after the election or approval and shall propose the charter and submit it to the governing authority of the municipality within 18 months thereafter. It says the charter shall not be altered or changed in any way, but it doesn't say that it has to be voted on within 18 months. So I'm going to differ with what was just said.
So y'all caught that, folks, right? So Colonel, why don't you explain the reason?
Yeah, I need to address that. What Richard Ray keeps saying is that he's under a timeline. He's saying that if this action is not voted on before the 18 months, that the Charter Commission work is gone. But I just quoted where it says differently, and that's in Louisiana statute.
And let me be fair to the weasel. So he doesn't directly say that. He just alludes to it.
Right.
Key distinction there. Okay, continue on, Colonel.
No, go ahead. I think that's the point I wanted to make.
Okay, here we go.
I don't think there's the same sense of urgency, and I think Mr. Lowry is going to address that. The genesis of this whole effort was started by the RPEC in Bossier Parish. And our goal is to get term limits in Bossier City, and we're seeking change in Bossier City for numerous reasons not to go into today. Subsequent to the RPEC voting and approving retroactive term limits, which have been retroactive from the very beginning.
So I want to stop right there. I want to make that clear that when Hammonds, Chris Smith, you, Colonel, all of us signed the initial petition that very first day, it's been retroactive. When the mayor signed it, when we were all standing out there in front of City Hall, from day one, it's been retroactive. So we all know that. Now, I'm going to skip through a few more minutes of yours because it was pretty much, you kind of
yeah,
rehashing what's going on. The important
I
point,
agree.
the important point is the 18-month deal that you called Richard Ray out on is a bunch of crap. All right. I'm going to skip to Miss Angelique's question. Here we go.
Perfect.
And just in terms of timing, what's the deadline for the Secretary of State to get something on the March 29th ballot? I mean, we're talking about a court decision, but is that even feasible if it doesn't get to the Secretary of State? Isn't that why we have such a long agenda today for elections, because of the deadline? Okay. Yeah. So it would have to go before the council. They would have to put it on their agenda. They would have to move forward with their ministerial non-discretionary duty. That's what a mandamus is, before it would be sent here and to be put on that agenda.
That's correct. Right.
I just want to make.
All right, so let's run through what she's talking about here. All right. So, Colonel, can you break that down for everybody real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. What she's trying to get at, let's start there. She's trying to get at that with the holidays and with the fact that there's a suspense for the Secretary of State, she's saying there's almost no likelihood that this will get through the City Council to get a resolution to get the retroactive term limits on the ballot at the same time. So she's trying to make it a moot point that we're arguing to delay their version of term limits and trying to get both of them on the ballot at the same time.
Right. But here's the other variable everybody needs to understand. Because the Second Circuit has delayed their ruling and likely will not issue a ruling until well into January, the timeline for getting the people's petition on the ballot is diminishing quickly. All right, because there's just not going to be enough time. And I would argue that it's an exercise in futility anyway, because if the Second Circuit rules against the city, which we expect them to, and rules for Cassie May and the people's petition, the city's just going to appeal it to the state Supreme Court. Now, the state Supreme Court may or may not hear it, but there's going to be a time gap in there, and there's no way the city council is going to not drag their absolute feet all they can in getting anything on the ballot, because they got to go through the meeting process again. So there's that. All right, here we go.
Sure that everyone understands that.
I think the difference that I would make with what was stated earlier is the statute that I read to you does not say that this has to be done now or even by the May election. We would prefer to have them both on the same ballot, and this is why. There's going to be confusion among the public, and we all know how voters are. They'll remember some things and they won't remember others. We would rather campaign for or against either one that we prefer at the same time. So that's why we would argue to have them on the same ballot. I think you would agree with that. And I'll also defer to Mr. Lowry if he wants to add to any of those.
Let me kind of recap here, because I'm getting questions up here, and I want to make sure everybody understands.
And I'm going to let Fleming's comments continue, so just bear with us, folks. I know a lot of you have probably already watched this, because what he says is very important here. And, Barry Butler made a comment. I guess Barry didn't watch this whole video at first about, oh, well, how can Fleming do that or whatever? But I want you to listen carefully to what Fleming says. He is literally the only one that voted no against the city and the Charter Commission. So listen up.
So what happened was citizens, through a coalition and through 2 petitions, the first one, there was problems, so you repetitioned.
Right.
But it was all timely. It came to the city council. And this is a question I'll ask from Ms. Friel, if I can have your attention for a moment. So this was brought to the city council, and they did not move forward. And so my question for you here is, should they, what was their requirement, their legal responsibility in that case?
Unfortunately, no one came and talked to me about this before today, which is unfortunate. And so I'm reading this, but if someone files a writ of mandamus, that means that they're alleging that there was no discretion to the council, that they should have just done it.
Yes.
Sounds like the trial court agreed with the people that asserted it. It is now on appeal. I don't know if they stayed the determination of the trial court. I don't know if the parties asked for expedited consideration. I don't know any of those things, but the reality is the deadlines are going to pass for it to be put on the March agenda.
And let me stop right there, just so y'all know a little bit of the background in this Friel. Angelique was with the AG's office when Jeff Landry was the AG. We had to deal with her off and on over the whole Robert Berry situation and some other things and all that. So she was able to read this and figure it out pretty quickly, even though she didn't have a whole lot of prior knowledge on what all was going on here.
I can answer part of that. We did file for...
Say that again?
Her next comment will be pretty important to this.
Right. All right, here we go.
Expedited consideration by the appeals court. It did not get, obviously, a hearing in the November or in the October dates. We tried to get it as quickly as we can. They did file to delay. I don't know if that was called a stay, and maybe Mr. Ray can
So what's
answer.
going to happen is it's going to get mooted out. What's going to happen is whatever happens here today, it's going to get mooted out, because something's going to get on the ballot and something isn't. And so they're forcing this body to make a political decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And somebody should have contacted me.
Next time we will.
She was visibly frustrated.
Oh yeah, she was not happy about the whole situation. So
And the person that she says that she's trying to say that somebody from the bond commission should have contacted her. I believe also that because of the conflict with all this, you would think that the city attorney would have made the governor's office aware of this as well.
Well, he's representing all sides. In total fairness, he's got city councilors that are for retroactive and not for, and for prospective. I mean, gosh, I just can't imagine why Richard Ray wouldn't have contacted Angelique Friel. I just can't imagine.
Good point.
All right, here we go. Let's see let me see what mark we're at. Forcing body. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty much where Duke starts.
Thank you, Ms. Friel. Well, okay, Mr. Lowry.
Is 5 minutes too long?
No, not at all.
Okay, I didn't. I thought y'all were in a hurry, and I didn't.
No,
want
we're not in a hurry. I want to make sure that we don't lull people to sleep and they start losing track.
I want to
of
wake
things.
them up. So now's the time you want to listen.
Okay.
So first off, Michael Lowry, Benton, Louisiana. I wear 2 hats. One, I am one of the spokespersons, like my colleague with the Bossier Term Limits Coalition, as well as I'm the chairman of the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee, where this movement started. And additionally to the questions that you had for the Assistant City Attorney, I would welcome, after I speak to you, those same questions that you asked him, ask me. I would love to respond to those as well.
Absolutely.
Because obviously I disagree with many of the
Anything
assertions
that
he
I've
made.
asked of them or any comments they've made, you're welcome to respond.
Right. So I put a few notes down that I hope will fill in some of the questions here that some of you may have. From our standpoint, nothing's really changed. What this all completely boils down to is this is nothing more than an attempt to defeat the people of Bossier City.
Bam.
The Anti-Term Limits Council and Charter Commission, their sole goal is to violate the First Amendment rights of the citizens of Bossier City to petition their government. It's really that simple. That's proven over and over again by their actions with numerous examples that I stand prepared to give you.
So I want to pause for a second. Of course, Duke hit the nail on the head right there. I want everybody to remember, this is not just about term limits. That became actually a secondary issue, I would argue, once the city council repeatedly violated the law, their own law, and violated a judge's order. Yes, they have a right to repeal it, but they can't get around the fact that they violated their own law. You can take the constitutionality of retroactivity and throw that garbage right out the window. That is called a red herring. It's to distract you from the fact that they repeatedly, in public meetings, violated the damn law, not to mention the roads. Would you agree, Colonel?
I absolutely couldn't have said it better.
All right, here we go.
They contend they have an urgent need to get these changes in these propositions to the existing charter that needs to be placed on the ballot. They're so urgent, it took them 20 years to get here, and the people petitioning to change the city for them to take action. Think about that. That's how important it is. It took them 20 years to get here to do it.
Do y'all catch what he's driving at right there? So remember, we told you to pay attention to what Richard Ray was saying about this, this urgency, and they got to get this on the ballot in March. What Duke's saying is perfect. It took them 20 years to get here. If it was so damn urgent and they needed these changes, they could have done it years ago. I mean, this is stupid. And he brings up an even better point here in just a second. Here we go.
So, in fact, in 2021, like was said, we elected a new mayor, Tommy Chandler, and a couple of new councilmen, and they ran on a platform of bringing transparency to Bossier City, accountability, and term limits. And shortly after that, they sought to do exactly that. In fact, they called for a charter commission at this same city council, and you know what? All these councilmen who would oppose our petition, they refused to call a charter commission.
Does everybody remember that? We covered it. Does everybody remember that? They tried to get a charter commission going, and it fell on deaf ears. We covered it. And now, oh my goodness, we got to hurry up and get these term limits in our version and these so important things and give Manchac more power. This got to be on there by March. We just got to hurry up.
And the timing of that is critical. The timing of that is critical because the first petition had already been done. They knew that we could do a petition, but it wasn't until we started the second petition that they decided all of a sudden that they wanted to do a charter commission.
Yeah. Oh, these guys are serious. Better do whatever we can to block them. All right, here we go.
Going to have nothing to do with it. Imagine that. So the anti-term limits councilman who, expressed the need to have these propositions placed upon the ballot, refused to call a charter commission. And, don't take my word for it about the purpose of the propositions, but rather let me read a statement of the city judge's wife, who was one of the appointees to the Charter Commission. On 7/22 of 24, the city judge's wife states, quote, "I'm willing to say this on the record because I want everyone to know my thought process. My thought is if this is pushed off and we can't do it before the end of July, it's not going to get on the December ballot, and the voters are not going to get to vote on our changes to the charter. Meanwhile, other changes may be on there. So what happens with the stuff that's on the ballot with the petition instead of the voters getting the option of what we have?" End quote. In other words, the purpose of the Charter Commission amendments and propositions were to thwart the citizens' petition to amend the charter to effect retroactive term limits. In fact, the Charter Commission was such a fiasco and a blatant affront to the people of Bossier City that on July 30th of 2024, Mayor Tommy Chandler called for disbanding the Charter Commission, stating, quote, "We have all seen what has happened with the Charter Commission over the past several weeks. I believe this is in the best interest of Bossier City to disband this commission, end quote. The product that you have before you today is a result of a manipulated process to achieve a certain outcome. From the appointment of members who have direct monetary interests in the outcome, to the exclusion of representation from certain districts within the city, to attempts to hold meetings without quorums, disparaging information being said to be publicly released regarding the chairman unless he was to resign, alleged walking quorums, secret ballot voting. We even had secret ballot voting in these charter commission meetings. I don't know that I've seen that around this legislature, but all for the simple purpose of thwarting, the people just simply wanting a vote on retroactive term limits. We expect strongly for a very favorable ruling coming out of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. We both sat in oral arguments a couple of weeks ago. The judges, in their questioning and statements, were very strongly worded, and anyway, that's an opinion, and we feel very confident. So, in closing, on behalf of over 3,000 citizens, and I want you to keep that in mind, we could have gotten a whole lot more. We could have. I mean, people were ripping it out of our hands. They want change in Bossier City government. And, they wanted retroactive term limits because they want to see a change in the leadership in the government. We have people that have been in there for 24 years. This version that's being put forward, that's going to put them over the 30 and up to the 40-year range. How much is enough? We would ask that you defer these propositions until the court proceedings are concluded, at which time, most likely, the people's petition will be out of the Second Circuit. The anti-term limits, good old boys propositions can all be on the same ballot with ours. Let the people decide this issue. Let it all go on one ballot. Let the people of Bossier City decide whether they truly want retroactive term limits or they want the propositions that, the hand-picked people of the good old boys, let's let them make the decision. But you can't do it if you go ahead now and you put this on the ballot, because I disagree with the attorney. He says that, if the people's petition comes after the fact, it can then amend the most recently passed charter. I disagree with his opinion, and we know I'm not a lawyer, Rhodes Scholar, stupid bill, but I do know that attorneys always say, well, that's just an opinion, especially they attack the AG's office. It's just an opinion. Well, that's his opinion as well.
Sure.
And
okay, we have some questions. Why don't we get to some
All
questions?
right, so let's dissect that for a minute. I mean, of course, Duke, again, was firing on all 8 cylinders. Both of y'all were at both of these bond commission meetings.
Well, to dissect, the reality is that Duke pretty much made a fool of everything, made a fool of city attorney, and I think the bottom line for all of this is everybody up there on the dais had already made their decision.
Right.
Duke read that right away, and we had already heard that from the governor's legal advisor that pretty much it was going to go on there. But it was a good opportunity to point out that they stepped all over the will of the people, and I think that's what comes out of this. And I think the one thing we did skip over that Duke makes a point all the time is that once the charter's changed, then you'll get some of the councilmen that are going to argue, hey, the changes that we put in our petition were to a charter that doesn't exist.
Right.
If they vote to approve the charter.
Yeah.
Now, which I'm going to throw this in because I don't want to miss it during this broadcast. That's why we got to defeat the charter. So just keep that in mind and let's go forward.
All right, so I'm going to skip ahead because this comment where Fleming asked Angelique if the city council had failed. So listen up. This is good.
to you because I know you have an opinion. So it is my understanding from your comment that the city council failed in
Rex,
its
you have to stop
responsibility.
that.
All right.
There's a key point there that if you miss this, the reason he said that he knew that Miss Friel had an opinion was there have been numerous times where we've confronted Miss Parks, where we've said, this is what the Attorney General says, this is what the Attorney General says, this is what the Attorney General's ruling is, or his opinion. And she always says, it's kind of like saying that everybody has an opinion like they have something else.
Right. Well, yeah.
I think, and that's why he said to Miss Friel, I'm sure you have an opinion.
Yeah, like in the immortal words of Dalton on Roadhouse, opinions vary. All right,
They do.
Here we go.
To move forward something that they really didn't have discretion in terms of voting forward.
This is so key.
That's at least the determination that the trial court made. Now, granted, the Court of Appeal could, I guess, theoretically decide a different way. It's just whether or not they have any discretion. It's just frustrating to me that the Second Circuit didn't address this quickly. It sounds like the oral arguments were a month ago, and this could have been avoided had they just decided it. Now it puts us in a difficult position because I don't see where there's any legal impediment for item number 7 to go forward.
Item number 7 being the Charter Commission's ballots.
I certainly would make
Right.
myself available if there's a call for a special meeting, but there are so many things that have to take place between now and the time frame for an election that would be difficult.
And what she's saying here, folks, just to summarize that very quickly, is all this talk from Richard Ray about, oh, yeah, well, theoretically it could be on the March ballot is pretty much BS because there ain't enough time.
That's right.
It's just logistically not
I
enough
think
time.
basically what she's saying that we missed in some of the discussion is that I believe it's January 2nd or 3rd or somewhere like that any propositions have to be to the Secretary of State.
All right, so I've got 2 more parts I want to play. The exchange between Tony Bacala and Duke, because it's great, and then John Fleming's final comments. And so here we go.
Treasurer, when was the mayor elected in the current council?
In spring of 2021.
So 2021, they took office in 22?
In 21.
They took office January 1st or whatever, 21?
They took office in July.
July 21, which means they will come back up in July 25.
That's right. Their election is this coming March, and then they will take office this coming July.
Okay.
No one's
So when is their election?
March, this coming 2025.
Obviously, it will not apply to this election.
That's correct.
Right? So the point I'm trying to make is I'm wondering, is it almost a moot point? I mean, right now, these same people who are serving in office today will be running in March if they choose to, and will be elected if the citizens want them, right? So there's only one question before us today. And the question before us today is, do we want to allow this amendment to go on the ballot, which is term limits going forward, right? And I think if we vote yes and let the people decide on that, then you have, since it doesn't affect the upcoming election, you still have 3 years, 4 years to modify that to make it apply retroactively. So I think the smart vote is yes, because you are not affecting the next election with this amendment, but you still have the opportunity before the following election to get what you want. And I'm just trying to logically follow the sequence. So I'm just trying to make that point.
So I want to point out also, before Duke has his reply, which was excellent, of course, he was letting Tony have all the rope he wanted to hang himself. Here
Oh
we go.
yeah, he pretty much made a fool of himself.
Yeah, here we go.
Representative Bacala,
Well,
and
do you disagree with
no, I
that
think
analogy?
you're accurate in your assessment, but you left off one thing. You're validating, ignoring the will of the people. Again, 3,000 plus citizens. You're validating a government.
I don't want to validate. I'm for.
Here's the point where you see a crawfish actually run across the screen.
Look, if it was up to us, if it was before us today, I'd be validating the citizens by voting yes, but that's not what's before us today.
So, as you all know, they ended up voting for it, except for John Fleming. He is the sole vote. And did you know, I went back and researched, that was the only no vote or objection in 2024 at the Bond Commission. I went back through 2023. There were 4 objections in 2020, or a couple of objections in 2023. But did you notice, or did you know, Colonel, I went back and researched, I went through their minutes. They actually did 4 or 5 deferments this year. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And
Well,
not including the previous one for the term limits.
Well, I'm just going to say to anybody who has not watched the previous Bond Commission meeting, you have to go back and watch Fleming, because he was great in this meeting, but he was poetic in the last one. And please go back and watch it.
Yeah. All right. So here is Fleming's closing comments before the vote for this meeting.
I think it's compelling that the judge ruled in your favor. I think that says a lot. I think that the city council did not do the responsible thing. And in an obvious effort to truncate retroactive, if not proactive, in fact, term limits. But it is what it is and what we deal with. And of course, our job is not to get into the politics. Our job is, we're not a court of law, and we don't presume to be. But I'm going to ask that everyone on this commission vote their conscience. I don't want anybody, no one is going to offend me if they vote differently than I do on this, which is a little unusual. Normally, everybody sort of goes along with the chairman. But I do oppose moving this forward. I think that the court could rule any time, and this thing could be cleaned up really fast. I deeply believe in the Constitution and the right for the people to petition their government, and I do think that it's being obstructed here. I agree with our group here at the coalition today. And so my vote is to defer, but I will entertain a motion.
All right. And of course, let me get through one more point here real quick.
I want to thank the busload of Bossier City citizens who are in support of you deferring this that came down. They organized themselves to show support, and thank y'all for the effort. It says something about citizen activism. It's real. It's unfortunate that citizen activism goes to die in their government.
Hey, Rex, if you'll pause for a second, because
Yeah.
anyone who didn't watch in the very beginning, you can go back and watch it if you have time. But thanks again go to Ruth. I'm going to say it twice. Ruth Pope Johnson took this thing, it took charge of it and organized this to get everybody there. And every time I talked to Ruth, or she had a question, she wouldn't let me do anything. She just ran with it. She believes in the term limits, and just thank you, Ruth, if you're listening.
Oh, absolutely. She has been a definite firebrand in this whole ordeal, and yeah, she did organize the bus. She got everybody there on time, got the bus off in time, and it was a fun road trip. round trip down to Baton Rouge and back, but it was a road trip and it was fun. So, and look, thanks to everybody that was on the bus. Thanks to everybody that went. Miss Deborah Ross was there. She's going to be running for city council as well. She was on the bus, and we had some good discussions with her as well. Got a question here. So, Miss Jerry says, how can a commission of a legislative body not render a political position with the power of a ministerial vote? I mean, it's literally a political office, and for them to sit there and say they've been put in this political position, I mean, that's kind of silly, but they're used to just
Hey, Rex.
literally rubber stamping almost everything.
Rex, I've only met Jerry Castellani, I think one time at a city council meeting. Jerry, you got to start going to these city council meetings. You make some really good points, and
Yeah,
and
you
we love
you can
hearing from you.
you can get on the kickout team with the Colonel and with Miss Alice.
I don't know if Jerry watched that Bossier watch, but it's not too hard to get kicked out. You just stand up when you're not supposed to.
You're right. She also asked who were the city council members at the bond commission. That would be none, except for Richard Ray. He's representing everybody. Peace, love, and flowers.
Yeah, we really expected that possibly Miss Whitman or somebody like that might come with Richard Ray, but they didn't show up. But Rex, you didn't make the comment, and I should have earlier. It was I didn't see it, but it was told to me that when Richard turned around and saw the Bossier City people walking in, it was a big surprise. And of course, it was announced by Dr. Fleming. But it was a great demonstration of how much people care. Thank you for doing that. We better segue on. I think we're up into the almost 2 hour period here.
Well,
talking about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, give me a time frame, because we can always do the city council meeting, on another show. Have you got time to run through at least or hit the highlights of it?
I think it wouldn't take. Oh, I've got plenty of time, so
Okay.
I think we could go ahead and go through it, and then later on, if you needed to break anything out of this to do any shorts, you could. So we do need to do it because you get more content every time we delay.
Oh, right. Okay. So, let's see. Now, to be honest, let me get to the right screen here. So the city council meeting was 2 hours, just a hair over. Well, shoot, 2 hours and 27 minutes. So by the time they got through, I didn't have time to go through and timestamp a whole lot. So we're just going to have to kind of wing this. I'm going to go up to the first time that you came up to speak, which is where you talk about the Bossier Police Department shortage. And I'll just roll through that and let you kind of explain. Here we go.
David Crockett, 653 Dumaine Drive, Bossier City, Louisiana. I just would like to request that we either get to ask some questions or that I address them right now for the budget part at the end of the meeting. We don't get an opportunity to comment on that. You're short 14 policemen, 11 firemen on that. I don't think anything has ever been discussed in the city council about whether you use bonuses, whether you need to survey the police to find out what it would take to get them to fill those spots. But I think that this is a gaping wound for Bossier City, and I think that anybody who wants to come and use Bossier City, when you listen to what was said at the workshop about how overtasked the police and the firemen are in Bossier City, I believe this needs to be addressed. I hope this body takes that on and adds it to a upcoming agenda, or at least address it.
All right, go ahead.
Basically, at the end, if you haven't done this, it is worth saying that the last meeting of every month, the finance director, Ms. Williamson, puts up charts that show the manning and the budget, or not the budget, but the performance of the city in receiving taxes and all those other things. So it's very good information. So you can go find it by going through the city council meeting minutes. I look at that every month. I print them out every month because I want to see the trends. But they, of course, passed the the new salaries for the police and firemen and the city staff. But my point is, there's still 14 people below. At the charter, or at the workshop for the budget, when it was discussed in great detail how the police and firemen were saying that, look, we're all overworked. We can't cover our shifts. We're having to cover the jail. We're doing all these things, and we're basically right now 11 firemen short and 14 policemen short. So my point is that they've never said, David Montgomery threw the $500 pay raise out on the wall, but no one has ever said, what are we going to do to fill these 14 positions? Is what we have done enough? Because right now the police and firemen are saying we need help.
Yeah.
So
and they've been saying,
yeah,
they've been saying that for a while. We've covered it here. You brought that point up many times in the meetings. And yeah, is just doing the Oprah Winfrey version and everybody that's, gets a new car under their chair. Is that going to be enough to attract new policemen to fill these unfilled positions? I didn't hear them discussing, maybe maybe they have some discretionary use of some of those funds to offer sign-on bonuses or something. I really don't know. Have you studied up on any of that?
They would have to vote to approve it because nothing happens without the council. But that is something that was brought up at the budget meeting where they had the workshop, that the police said that there were many police forces that would take a $10,000 bonus. They would pay $5,000 to the person who signs up and then maybe wait a year or 2 years and then pay the rest of the $10,000. But basically right now, I'm going to say this again, that Bossier City is, before they fill those, or after they fill those positions, they're already 9 to 10 people short of what the number of policemen that they had in the Bossier City staff in 2009. But they let, it's more than 10 positions fall off the books because they let them go. Yeah. They fired them.
Right.
And so that Bossier City needs more police. So anyway, I just want to make that point.
All right, so Miss Jerry asked another question. She is full of questions tonight. That's fine. We appreciate all of them in the comments. And look, we've been holding 70 to 80, bumping 90 earlier people through this through the show, so we appreciate that. Miss Jerry
Let me answer a question.
Yeah, she says, when are the council meetings and when is the earliest we get an agenda? Take it away, Colonel.
Yeah, so every Thursday for a Tuesday meeting, they have to announce a meeting 24 hours prior to the meeting, but the city council in Bossier City has a policy to announce the meeting agenda on Thursdays. And this is really a good short tutorial to guide everybody. So on that Thursday, now you can go to Bossier City's website right now, and Jerry, contact me and I will talk you through on the phone how to sign up, so you'll get a notification on your phone every time they print the agenda.
Right.
That way, when you get that agenda, you can click on it on your phone. But what I do personally is I just use that as a reminder that next Tuesday is going to be a meeting. And if I go to the website, I can click on the agenda, and then there's a hot link on the agenda for every item that you can read all the supporting material that they're voting on. And listen, my time is available. I'm not working anywhere. Anyone on Bossier Watch that wants to find out basically a tutorial so that you can go there and be a productive member according to the public. You won't be productive according to the city council because they don't really want to listen to you.
Right.
But at least you get a right to speak. So anyway, anyone who wants to do that. So on a Thursday for a Tuesday meeting, and then there are other meetings that go on sometimes during the week or unscheduled meetings, and that way you'll get a notice on your phone. I hope that answers your question.
I just thought we should create a video tutorial with you. We have trust me, we have the capability to do that. And we should post that. Maybe we'll do that for Bossier Watch or for Bossier Term Limits. Maybe we'll post it there. We'll talk about that some more.
That we could almost do that in a short if you just tell me when you want to do it, and that way people can watch it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and she's got one more question. She says, I would love a semester of teaching on how to navigate all the resources you all use in city and state politics. Colonel, are you an available tutor?
I tell you what, the first time that Jerry Castellani went to a city council meeting that I ever saw her there, maybe she'd been before, she tutored me. She said that, before her husband passed, and my heart goes out to you, that she said he participated and did all these things and took the lead, and now she's taken over and she wants to be involved. Wow.
Yeah.
It just, yes, I will tutor anybody, and I will be glad to meet with somebody just before a council meeting and go in with them. But the other person, Ruth Pope Johnson, she can do it. Everybody's learning how to do this. More people we get in those council meetings. That's what we need to advocate for. The more people that go in there and listen and speak, then they realize that they don't. So this is a good segue. Let me go ahead and introduce the next section, Rex. The issue that the main part of this council meeting was about the water.
Right.
And Bossier City is raising the water rates. They said they weren't going to raise the water rates in the budget workshop. That workshop was also announced just like this, Jerry, so you could have known about the workshop and gone. Now, the benefit of Bossier City is that I will show you also where you can go and get the recordings of any one of these meetings that they record. So you can go back and watch them so you can learn about these things. But here's what they did today. After the real problem that I had with everything that's going on in Bossier City right now is Bossier City spends money like crazy. They're throwing so much money at the water systems, and what's happening is Bossier City is being forced by the state right now to raise the rates for water. Now, that doesn't matter to...
Wait. I got to stop you there for a second. Say that again.
The state of Louisiana is forcing Bossier City to raise the water rates.
All right, hold on. I hate to interrupt you again, but I want to take us back in time to April the 4th of 2023. Remember, the port was going to be the savior of Bossier's water system and all that, right? And I want
Rex,
y'all...
like magic, are you coming up with a marker for the infamous comment that David Montgomery made?
Oh yeah, I'll spare everybody his entire soapbox, but just listen to this.
To be stewards of the taxpayers' money, to ensure or mitigate the fact that we will not have water rate increases going forward.
What? Now, did I hear that incorrectly? Let's play it again.
To be stewards of the taxpayers' money, to ensure or mitigate the fact that we will not have water rate increases going forward.
Did y'all hear that? Folks, did y'all hear that? What did Queen Monty say right there? Did I mishear him? He said something about no water rate increases.
He was trying to be the Nostradamus, but he just doesn't quite ever get there. But
okay.
But let me go ahead and say what he was saying. The reason that was so important was when Bossier City when they were discussing and voted to extend the line of Bossier City's water system to go underneath the river all the way to the Port Authority. They are saying he justified Bossier City extending that line at the cost of the Port Authority, but as soon as they want to turn on the spigots, then they're saying whatever the investment from Bossier City would be reimbursed to the city. That's basically what he was saying. So he was pressuring people to go ahead and support the Port Authority. So that's what that was in response to. We were arguing again.
Yeah, and look, I don't think they've actually, I guess, billed the port yet and received a dime yet, but it's just, I don't know, for somebody that is, loves to lecture people at city council meetings, and he's so smart, and he's a CPA and has an accounting degree, blah, 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 blah. He sure does do a good job of making an ass of himself. I'm going to put together a little montage with that one in it.
Well, let me make one more comment, because I think that we don't have to go to the agenda item, but I'll summarize it. one of the last meeting agenda items on the water system, there are about 5 items on the water system that we have in Bossier City. But one of the last items was to spend $5 million from the general fund, and I'll explain what the general fund is to people in another meeting that we have on Bossier Watch. But they took money out of the general fund that can be used to pay for anything in Bossier City. You can pay for infrastructure, you can pay for whatever you want to do. When money is segregated into the funds that come from water and sewer, that money has to be used in those categories. But you can take money from the general fund. So they're actually taking money from the general fund to increase the pumping capacity that they have, because they justify it by saying, because we're going to be pumping water soon to the port, so we need the additional pumping capability. Now, one of the points that Brian Hammond's made today, which is a very good point, is that people in South Bossier a lot of people are trying to look at that land down south of Bossier City and want to develop there. So that's a good justification. But it was another promise made, not kept, that they said when they voted for the Port Authority and moving that pipeline down there, they said Bossier City doesn't need anything but to put the pipeline down, that's going to be funded by a bond by the Port Authority, and that Bossier City didn't need to spend any money. Well, that's lie number 50, maybe?
Oh, yeah. I can go back and expand that clip, which we won't do tonight, where he talks about, I mean, he got on his soapbox about basically there was zero cost to the city, zero, and they're going to make $1.50 a gallon. And he even said he wanted in on that deal, but there were ethical things that kept him from doing it. And I like to spit my water out when I was listening to that today. But anyway, so I'll share that clip out in the next few days.
Now, I don't know, Rex, do you have a marker for the brain-eating amoeba?
No, I don't have for all that. I do have for the water rate adjustment ordinance when they read it. So let's listen to that for just a second, so people will know what we're talking about here.
Introduce an ordinance to amend sections 114-4 and 114-32 of the Code of Ordinances of Bossier City, Louisiana, to adjust water and deposit rates in the Public Utilities Department. First reading.
So moved.
All right, and I also have a screenshot. Hold on. Let me see. I can drag it. Yeah, I can just drag it over the video. Won't that be nice? There's the actual ordinance. I think, is that the rates that they're going to raise them up to, Colonel? I don't know if you can really see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see it very well, and I will explain that. If you, for instance, I live outside the city. My rate is going to be changed to $18.80. Currently, the rate is $15.80, so that's about a 15% increase for my water rates.
Right.
Now, if you live inside the city, if you move to the left, that rate is $10.16, and the rate originally was $8.54 for the flat charge. If you see that's the category of the flat charge. Then, if you use a lot of water, like David Crockett does, you pay per 1,000 gallons $5.41. Well, my bill this month was $66, which doesn't break my bank, but it would break somebody else's bank. Right. So, but inside the city, you pay a per 1,000 gallon rate that's lower. Now, one of the questions that I asked in the meeting was, why am I, because I pay Bossier City water even though I don't live in Bossier City. Bossier City bills me.
Right.
And I pay that. So I just asked, why am I being billed? And that's really not a big issue. But I will say one thing. If you get a chance to watch this long meeting, I'm going to give kudos. And if you want a cockroach of the day, I would say that person needs to be Amanda Nottingham. And we know that cockroaches can be good on this show.
Yes.
And Amanda Nottingham, if you're listening to any of these shows, you are the rock in this city because you have the answers and you're ready to give them. I will also say that the city council keeps their thumb on you sometimes because you have the answers and they don't really necessarily want you to speak. And I think that that's one of the things that we go all the way back to the Charter Commission that when Bossier City elected 2 new city councilmen and a mayor, openness was an issue. The Bossier Watch is the only, well, I can't say that. John Settle, of course, we've got Wes, who does a great job covering Bossier City issues.
Yeah,
But
and
these are
Sadow.
things, and Sadow, absolutely, my friend Jeff Sadow. I'll share with you real quick. Just about every meeting, Jeff Sadow and I are texting, and sometimes he'll throw something out to me, and I know Jeff Sadow can't attend the meeting, so I go up and ask his question, and it just makes I get a little banner, and sometimes you'll see a smile on my face. But I will tell you, we don't have to go through all of the water thing because we're starting to get late, and you may want to cover one of your other issues. But what is happening in Bossier City is they're doing this nanoparticle study in Bossier City. They're putting $10 million, which is not chump change. And the way it was conveyed, Rex, I don't think you've got the document here.
Yeah, I don't have it pulled up.
What happens is in most cities they use chemicals, but there's a process that Bossier City has been testing, and we would be one of the first in the state to do this. It's a nanoparticle study. And Bossier City wants to spend about $10 million to refurbish some of the equipment, and there's some major issues. And I know Brian Hammonds did an incredible job kind of pushing back and saying, look, if there's anything we do well in Bossier City, it's our water. We have great water. The other point that he made, and I'm looking while I'm doing this, but the other thing that he pointed out is that we're not going to take risk, and the biggest set of complaints that he ever gets is when you get chlorine smell in your water.
Right.
So what Manchac is trying to do is they're trying to make Bossier City a model city, and the reason that bothered me was in the earlier part of the meeting, Manchac said that it would cost up to $35 million to update the water system to do this nanoparticle process, which is a multi-step process that you use to treat your water instead of chemicals using chlorine. So because we don't have a marker, I'll read just a little bit to you.
Sure.
And this is what kind of drove me crazy. In the ordinance that they that they voted to pass, it's going to be voted on again. So you get 2 readings on every ordinance, and I think that that's a good point to make. Whereas multiple deaths in Louisiana have been associated with the presence of Galeria flori in drinking water, and whereas free chlorine disinfection is the best prevention measure to eliminate that floria, whatever that's called, in drinking water, and whereas free chlorine alone increases harmful disinfectant products when exposed to organic compounds in water. So I read that to think that maybe you could just treat this with chlorine, and that's the way that most cities must be treating it, with chlorine and other chemicals. But Manchac showed a picture of some of the equipment that need to be used during this osmosis process to treat water. So that was a big discussion today. But here's what happened in a nutshell. They, of course, are, and for Jerry or anybody else who wants to go through this before the next meeting, it might be a perfect time to get together with anybody who wants to do it, or to do a Bossier Watch, short Bossier Watch, to talk about the process, because the next meeting is, I think they announced that it was going to be on January the 2nd.
2nd, yes.
So they changed the date of the meeting, but it's a perfect time to go back and look at some of this. Now, here's the basic problem, and Rex, interject if you want to ask. You listen to the show too, or listen to the meeting. But basically, what I have been saying to Bossier City for the last 3 years is that they put this information out in front of the people. You can't tell if the Bossier City Council even read, and I'm telling you that 90% of the time, Bossier City does not read what they're voting for.
No, you brought that point up too in today's meeting.
That's exactly right. So my point is that they're spending, in this meeting, they obligated, I think, almost $25 million to go towards water improvement from 3 different sources. From the American Rescue Funds, which they have to spend by a certain amount of days. But the point, I couldn't go back up there to argue this. If you don't use it for the water system, what else could you use it for? There's an opportunity cost for anything you decide to spend your $10 million on. They made the argument that the reason that the rates, oh, wow, Jerry, long answer that I have to get into.
Look, no, I made it pretty simple. Manchac owns the city. There, I fixed that for you, Miss Jerry.
That's the best way to view this, because Manchac, that's why I said earlier in the meeting, if the city charter is approved, you can have every division head be a contractor, and there is nothing to stop Manchac from saying, look, we have a fee-for-service scale, or you can do it like you did where you give me $200,000 for Manchac to lead the engineering department. You can give me $150,000 to lead the public information office. So, yeah, Jerry, very, very good question. So basically, getting back to what I was going to say a second ago, the issue is that you have an opportunity cost for things you're spending money on. I'm not saying that I'm right, that you can use money in a different way. I'm saying explain it to the people so I don't have to call Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, what's it called, Rex?
The Louisiana DEQ?
Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that I'm right, but what I wanted to hear from Manchac that I said in the meeting today, if you don't do this, what are 2 other alternatives? You know, if you don't do this, can you kill that bacteria with chemicals? And one of the things that came out was that if you do it the way we're doing it today, one of the reasons that our budget has gone up so much in cost during the inflation that we've had is that chemical costs have gone up.
Right.
It might have cost them another $1 million for chemicals to treat water this year. But the point being is it made it sound like when they write these ordinances and when they write the summaries of what they're going to discuss in the item and you read it as an individual in Bossier City, you're not giving me enough information for me to know what's going on. So what I told Brian Hammonds after he kind of chopped at us and said, let's not make these meetings so controversial. I don't know how you'd want to summarize that. Brian, I have the greatest respect.
Yeah, I'm not going to play it tonight, but let me summarize that Brian got on his soapbox, did a little whine session, and look, I like Brian, absolutely support his re-election for city councilman, even though he's not in my district, would support him in pretty much any political office. But I'm sorry, Brian, that people want to discuss these things when you're spending 30, 40, 50, couple $100 million of all of our, including Brian's, taxpayer dollars. I'm sorry that people actually want to have a real dialogue about that, and not just a rubber stamp yes man. But anyway, continue, Colonel.
I could not have said that more saliently. And that's what I've been trying, since I went to my first meeting, Jerry, that's what I've been trying to get from the council. I've been trying to get a dialogue so that the people feel like they're a part of the process. Where it was pointed out to me over and over again, they would point that when I made that comment, they'd point out, where's my camera? They'd point out to the crowd and say, you're the only person here.
Right.
That's why we need more people going to the council meetings. And I don't want to be on a soapbox, but I thought that because of, I could summarize that there were a couple of other issues other than the nanoparticle study, but for Jerry and for other people that have not gone to a lot of these council meetings, there are 2 readings for every ordinance. So when they divide up their agenda, the first part is the second readings or the resolutions that only require 1 reading. They vote 1 time on resolutions. They have to vote twice on ordinances. So in those agenda items that are so important that they're spending all this money on, It says in the charter that they have to have 2 readings and they have to be an ordinance. So
Well,
that's
hold
kind
on,
of,
hold on. Let me correct you there. It does not say that anywhere in the charter. That's actually a state. It's a state statute, and there's another act. I'm going to do a whole show or section of a show on that.
in the charter, it lists about 20 things that have to be done by ordinance and obligating the city with contracts and things like that. So, good point, Rex. And there are statutory guidance with all of these things. And I'm not saying the root reason for that, but it is in the charter. And I think that that's one more thing, Rex, that we can promise to Bossier Watchers, whatever you want to call everybody that joined together with your crowd. The one thing that we need to probably do, and I promise you that I'll make myself available anytime we want to do this, is we need to take the charter and explain it to people and just put a few more nuggets with it, like how to be informed about what meetings that they're going to have. And we could put that together because we're going to have to do that because we do not support the Charter Commission work. And I'll explain that in that's just a whole nother issue, and I don't want to drag this on too long past people's bedtime. But I promise you that we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're already at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark. And look, I appreciate you very much, Colonel, for coming on tonight. It's a lot of material in the city council meeting that we're kind of skipping over. I would encourage everybody, go to YouTube, search for Bossier City Council. You'll find the meeting from today listed there. If you try to find it this evening, you may want to wait till tomorrow as it transitions from the live to just the regular video. Sometimes it kind of gets lost in the menu during that transition, especially longer meetings. But anyway, they do have it posted there. And I would encourage you to listen to that meeting. Some of it's kind of boring, you have to get through, but when they get to the water part, it is very educational, as well as the points that you and Cassie and Miss Ruth and even Miss Alice, of course, brought up are important points and are important, pertinent questions that everybody needs to listen to and take a lesson. And when you can, attend those meetings and ask your own questions. It is your right as a Bossier City citizen to do that. And I want to address one other thing real quickly. Val Baker said, would they acknowledge me since I use city water? Probably not. Let me remind everybody, public meetings are not just for the the citizens or residents of the municipality. If somebody wanted to show up from New York City, of all places, they can get up and speak at those meetings. They are literally public meetings. So you have every right to speak as long as you follow their unconstitutional rules of decorum.
Yeah, Rex, let me make one quick comment on that. Because we referred to it a little bit earlier today, but the soldier warrior, in addition to Bossier Watch and John Settle, it has been Wes Marriott, who has a First Amendment lawsuit against the city because they tried to cut him short on an agenda item where he always had, you have a right to speak during any agenda item. The city rules for what you're supposed to say, you need to keep it on the topic on the agenda. But it only needs to peripherally be related to the agenda item, and they cannot tell you to stop talking. If you believe that it's a part of that agenda issue, they can't stop you.
If they were
David Montgomery...
Well, I just want to interject, and I've said this many, many times. If they were smart, they would just shut up and let everybody speak, get through their 3 minutes, and be done. They are under no legal obligation under any Louisiana statute to answer or even address you. They just have to give you the ability to make your comments. They don't have to answer you. They don't have to reply to you at all. If they would just shut up and let you make your comments, they wouldn't look like complete assholes all the time.
Right. Well, there's one trigger point. Anybody who wants to get kicked out of a meeting or get point of order or whatever David Montgomery wants to do, because I have been point of ordered 3 times, one time in a city council meeting. And it was when I was quoting one of Jeff Sadow's articles on the Bossier City debt per capita. And if you talk bad about how Bossier City is wasting money, Alice Boyer, you are my hero today. Thank you for commenting. It's absurd, and I'm gonna sit down with Alice Boyer and tell her next time how to tell them she has a First Amendment right and not listen to them. But anyway, now one more thing. I said it earlier, but it was at the very beginning of this show. I want everybody to think about going to YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go to YouTube, subscribe to Bossier Watch. Click on the little bell that says notifications. If you need help, give me a call because it's not the same on every system. But the more people we get on there, and if you like every show, if you click on that like button on every show, then more people will get sent the Bossier Watch notification on their phone or on their TV. You can do this on your TV. You can do it on your phone. I keep telling Rex, you need to harp on this more often. I don't need to be like Megyn Kelly and do the... But that's really important because the more people that get this information, the more people that will vote against these, what Duke calls the jackwagons. We've got to get rid of at least 4. Well, we got to get rid of 2 city councilmen, and we got to get Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds elected back to office. We've got great candidates. I'm going to just pitch that. We're going to be talking about this later on in future shows, but we've got to get everybody out there. We're going to need people walking. If you can contribute, I'm going to say, if you can contribute once a month, whatever we need to do, we're going to talk about that in future shows, but we're going to need to do a little bit of fundraising. But the main thing is we got to get behind these guys. And if you share these programs when they're shareable to all of your friends, and when you share it, say, join us, subscribe. That's my last pitch.
I don't know what else to say except we're going to have to renegotiate your salary because you deserve a raise.
Well, Rex, I'm sorry, but I'm not a prostitute.
La 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 la. With that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I really don't have that much to add. You did a great job, and Duke and I both appreciate that, Colonel. You have been instrumental in your efforts. Whether it's city council meetings, charter commission meetings, bond commission meetings, police jury meetings, whatever, in trying to bring issues to the forefront, and your offer to help tutor people and show people how to do stuff. I'm sure everybody appreciates that, and I really appreciate you stepping up to the plate this evening and being put through the gauntlet on Bossier Watch as a co-host, an official co-host.
My pleasure, and I'm not going to wear my helmet again unless I'm made to do it.
All right. Folks, we appreciate you watching. As usual, bossierwatch.org. We got a donation link if you want to donate some coffee money. We really hadn't pitched that very much. I am going to get some t-shirts done soon. Go visit Pelican Training and Consulting, the Ferrises. They are big supporters of us. We appreciate them. Of course, Acadiana Mortgage way over there in that corner above the Colonel. If you need some mortgage information, Duke and Kara always glad to help you out. Follow us on some of the outdoor stuff that we do in that corner. Anyway, with all that said, we appreciate everybody watching. Colonel?
You missed one more point. Smarter Geek. Rex is somebody that does an incredible job if you're ever locked up on your computer or anything like that. And Rex does it as a profession. But he got me on this program, so he got me over the hump on some of this technology stuff.
All right. Appreciate it, Colonel, and we'll look forward to having you on again and doing some Bossier term limit stuff.
Anytime. Thank you.